Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In my last video I discussed about the revolt of 1857 where I discussed about the different factors which led to the revolt. Then I described about the nature of the revolt. I described about the different people opinion means about the Indians and the Britishers. Even I discussed about the different leaders at different places who fought, or we can say that about the regional variations. Further, I discuss about the impact of this revolution also. In this video, I am going to discuss about the rise of nationalism in India. In brief, I am going to give the definition and what were the different reasons for the rising. And finally, I am going to discuss about the viceroys who were responsible for the agony in the people of India and hatred towards British, which lead to the rise of nationalism. So what are we waiting for? Let's start our discussion with the definition of nationalism. Nationalism. It is the state of awareness and the level of consciousness which evolved in the second half of the 19th century irrespective of regional, religious and racial differences. There were many factors which led to the rise of nationalism, such as politico-administrative unification, introduction of English, establishment of printing press and publication of newspapers, socio-religious reform movement, introduction of railways, establishment of Congress, French revolutionary ideas, unification of Italy and Germany, and reactionary policies of viceroys like Lord Canning, Lord Lytton, Lord Ripon, Lord Dufferin, and Lord Curzon. I am going to discuss about all these factors in one by one. So, the first factor is the politico-administrative unification. The beginning of the rule of British Crown, which intended to policy of consolidation, British government had implemented general administration, judicial administration and the revenue administration uniformly throughout India. CRPC and IPC were also codified for smooth administrative convenience. The impact of these colonial laws had uniform reactions from the Indians, and it helped in generating the common consciousness. Next is the introduction of English. Linguistic barrier was biggest factor hindering the rise of nationalism. British government has introduced English as medium of instruction after Macaulay Minute 1835. It facilitated the inter-regional communication and common understanding among the Indians. Next is the establishment of press and the publication of newspaper. First printing press was established by Portuguese in Goa, mainly to print the Bible. Afterwards, many other books were also printed. English East India Company published large number of books containing the liberal political philosophy of West, like rule of law, constitutionalism, liberal values, etc. Indians also got information about these reforms in the Western world and they intended to get it. Their main demand was restoring the rights of citizens. This led to the rise of nationalism. Even the social reformers used the newspaper to spread the views. Local views were shared and became national views. With this, we have understood that what was the role of the book and the newspaper in India. Next is the socio-religious reform movement. Various strands of socio-religious reform movement led to the rise of various national movements like political, economic, and the cultural nationalism. Next is the establishment of Congress, which happened in the year 1885. It gave platform to the scattered nationalism. So nationalism transformed into Indian national movement and started more organized form to protest against British. Next is the impact of French Revolution. French revolutionary ideas created the seeds of nationalism. Its first impact was realized in Italy and Germany. And after 55 years of long effort, Italy and Germany became nations. Now, the leaders of Indian nationalism had also realized the same conciseness to unite the nation. Next is the establishment, or we can say the introduction of railways and the means of communication, which facilitated the inter-regional communication. It developed common understanding against the common oppressor. Next is the reactionary policy of viceroys, under which I am going to discuss about the some viceroys. Due to their certain activities, there was rise of nationalism in India, like the Lord Canning, who was here from 1858 to 1862. He introduced portfolio system, means the distribution of ministry. Now the members of Viceroy's Executive Council are going to get responsibility of only one department. Next, he established Department of Commerce. It is also known as Canning School of Business. In 1861, High Court Act was passed that led to the establishment of High Court in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in 1865. India Council Act was also passed in 1861, due to which Central Legislative Assembly and the Provincial Legislative Assembly got established. These all were done to consolidate the British rule in India for the colonial perfection. Britishers realized that the company is doing misgovernance, so they have created a perfect model. But due to these, Indians got transformed into reactionary mode. Lord Lytton, who was here in 1876 to 1880, his first work was the Arms Act, under which Indians were not permitted to carry the arms even, but Britishers were permitted. Now, next one is the Vernacular Press Act, which is also known as Bold from Blue by Surendranath Banerjee. Publication of newspaper in regional language was banned. Only English newspaper were permitted. There were certain conditions under this, such as license. Second was the security deposit, and the third was the presentation of copy before magistrate before the publication. Even after these conditions, if the magistrate found that the content of the newspaper is provocative, then the press and the security deposit was confiscated, and there was no provision for the appeal in any court of law after confiscation. Therefore, magistrate had huge power at local level. As I have mentioned before, Surendranath Banerjee called this law as the bolt from blue, which means Asman se Vajra ka girna. Next was the Royal Title Act and the celebration of Delhi Darbar. British government had organized Grand Delhi Darbar, and Queen Victoria got the title of Kaisar-e-Hind. But parallel to this event, there was a first famine in India. According to R.C. Dutt, 5 million people had died. It exposed the insensitivity of British rule in India. However, under pressure, the British government constituted Strategy Commission, which was the first famine commission. Next Viceroy is the Lord Ripon. He was also known as Ripon the Reformer. In 1881, first official census was done. Means in 1872 the unofficial census was done, and for the first time in 1881 the official census was done. At that time the population was 254 million. In 1881 the first Factory Act was also passed. Under this the provisions were like this. First one was the child below 7 years could not work in the factory. Second was the child under 7 to 12 years. For them, the working hour was fixed. Fencing of the dangerous factories should be done, And the last condition was the appointment of the labor inspector. By this we can understand this was only for the kids, means we can say for the children. So because of that, the first Factory Act was disappointment to the Indian labor. Next, he established the local self-government. It was financial and administrative decentralization. Now the Hunter Commission was also established, and it was related to the education for the primary and the secondary level. Next, and the most controversial, was Ilbert Bill controversy in 1883. This bill was introduced to bring the judicial uniformity in India. After this bill, Indian judges can see the criminal cases of Europeans. It resulted in the massive protest in India and England, which is also known as the White Revolt. Finally, Ripon changed the content of the bill, and the jury system was implemented with the majority of British judges. So we can understand that the English people were not ready to be seen, or we can say that their cases cannot be heard by the Indians. So the Ilbert Bill controversy gave visible expression to nationalism. It transformed nationalism to Indian national movement. Next is Lord Dufferin. He was here from 1884 to 1888. During the time of Lord Dufferin, Indian National Congress came into existence. Dufferin called the congressmen as microscopic minority of India. Some British men called Congress as the organization of disloyal Babus, seditious Brahmins, and violent villains. So the leaders of Congress sharply reacted and started more intense form of nationalism. Dadabhai Nauroji said, "We can tolerate Lytton, but should not tolerate Dufferin." Next, I am going to discuss about Lord Curzon, who was here from 1899 to 1905. He started aggressive policy of divide and rule. He had two big policies. First was the partition of Bengal and spread of communism. He wanted to create minority conciseness and division among Hindus and Muslims. Curzon once said, "Since the days of Prophet Muhammad, Muslims are fighting for their homeland. It is the biggest responsibility of British to provide them." By this, he was trying that he is very much concerned about Muslims, but actually he was trying to divide Hindus and Muslims. Next is the differences between the moderate and extremist was the opportunity for the Curzon for subside Congress. And he said, "Congress is tottering to its fall, and one of the biggest ambition of my life is to give its peaceful demise." Therefore, the aggressive policy of Curzon led to the rise of nationalism. He constituted many commissions, such as Robertson Commission. It was for railway reform. Second was the Fraser Commission for police reform. Fuller Commission for military reform. MacDonald Commission, famine relief. Thomas Raleigh Commission for education commission. It led to the passing of Indian Universities Act, now under which teaching function is in the universities started. Next is the Montserrat Commission, which was Irrigation Commission. Curzon passed Ancient Monument Protection Act also. He sent young husband expedition to Tibet, where he has asked Chumbi Valley on lease for 75 years, which lead to the conflict in between India and China in future. By this, I came to an end to this video, and we have understand about the nationalism, its causes, and even about some cunning viceroys and their filthy works against Indians. We can realize about the Britishers and the colonial loot and crimes also. We should think about these and never forget about the history. With this, I am concluding my video. And if you find my video interesting, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you.